Champion pro Simon Goodwin takes his place in the Australian Football Hall of Fame. Congratulations. Come in. Obsessive, perfectionist, the work was the joy. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that sounds right. You know, I love what I did. I worked as hard as I could possibly work to get everything out of myself, and I probably was obsessive at times, but it's what I love to do, and it's what I dreamt of as a young boy. So to be able to fulfil that was fantastic.
It wasn't the only dream you had. We're here at the Adelaide Oval. We've got a view towards the centre. How strong was the lure of cricket to be out there playing for South Australia and maybe beyond?
Yeah, I was really fortunate as a kid to grow up and have the choice of playing cricket and footy. I was always encouraged to do that for as long as I could, and I was playing in the under-19s state team. I was bowling left arm medium paces, and I was thinking about one day playing potentially Shield cricket for South Australia and Test cricket for Australia, but eventually had to make a choice, and I was really fortunate enough to get drafted to the LA Footy Club in 1996, and I remember the phone call from John Reid when he said to me, "Your days of cricket are done, son. Get to work."
You had timing as being perfect. When Malcolm Blight came in, when you were ready, the door was open for young talent in Adelaide, and that's the door that you charged through.
Yeah, it was. I came in at a really interesting time of the LA Footy Club's period. Obviously, with Malcolm taking over and some senior players leaving the club at that point, it was really clear that he wanted to put some belief in our younger players, and I was in a really fortunate situation at that point that Malcolm basically said, your time's now and get into it. And had a hell of a lot of young players playing. We started to be led by Mark Bickley. We had a young leadership group with Mark Rasciuto and Ben Hart, and we just took to the field and did our best and believed in what we were doing.
Your ninth game, it's a fabled preliminary final, and you put the Crows in front. Was there an air of familiarity about that kick for you?
Yeah, there was, Jared. I'd practiced that kick 100 times, maybe 1,000 times in Thomas Street, Clarence Gardens. There was two trees between, there was a Stobie pole, which is the point, and there was two trees out the front of Thomas Street, and I'd commentated that kick for years. I'd missed a few times and just said that was a mulligan, but and that was the time, probably my ninth game. My first time I'd probably been to the MCG, that I really felt that I deserved to be in an AFL team.
And Mum and Dad were there. It was a significant kick, both for you and for the history of the footy club. Yeah,
it was funny in the warm-up. My dad was sitting. I knew exactly where he was sitting. It was funny. I was in the warm-up. I could see my dad and brothers and some family friends. I was sitting in this pocket, sort of 45 metres out on the half-forward flank, and it just happened to be that was directly in line with the goal that I was kicking at that moment. So I had them behind me. I knew if I had missed, they would have been into me. So I'm glad I kicked it.
It happened quickly. It was 31 games and you were a dual premiership player. Did you have a sense, and maybe as the years went by, did you have a sense of just how quickly it all happened?
Yeah, it happened really quickly. And as a young player, I loved the experience. It was full of excitement. It was full of joy. I had some great teammates. We had incredible memories. But after 31 games and winning 2 flags, as I went on through my career, I felt that I needed more. And I think that was something that continued to push me to greater heights, was to that strive for success again. And you realise just how hard it is to get the success that you want. From a team perspective, and I was really fortunate in my first 31 days, and it feels a little bit selfish that I'm standing here saying I wanted more, but that's what the stage you get to in your career, that you know how hard it is and the work that you need to do to win premierships, and in the end I was disappointed I didn't get another one.
You could play anywhere. When you went forward for a few weeks, you're an absolute force. The midfield, though, were those the years that made the most sense?
Yeah, they were. I love playing my time in the midfield. Craigie at one point with Todd Viney, who's in the room, decided they were going to put me as a forward. That lasted about 7 weeks, and I realised how hard it was and got the hell out of there again. But I love my time in the midfield, and the ability to play through there with the likes of McLeod, Rashudo, Tyson Edwards. It was just great fun to be around.
The end? You were on pretty good terms with the end. What, it just occurred to you one day?
Yeah, we were coming to an interesting period in the footy club's history. We had 4 guys that were over the age of 30. And the club was really in a development phase at that point. 2009, we'd made the finals. 2010, we're looking a little bit shaky. And I remember walking the dog. It was round 9 in 2010. I was walking the dog, and Craigie lived probably three or four blocks away from my house. I walked the dog straight over to his house and knocked on the door and said, "I think the time's come. I think someone in this club's got to get the ball rolling and start looking at retirement." And it was a really difficult conversation with Craig. It was emotional. I felt like I still had a little bit of footy left in me, but I wanted to go out on my terms, and I'm glad I did.
At your core, what drove you?
Probably what drove me the most was this desire to prove people wrong. When I was a really young lad, I was small, and I was told that I probably was never going to make it. I struggled at school initially, and I had to work really hard. And it was really, throughout my whole career, it was to prove people wrong. And that was when I was at my best. When someone said you can't do something, that was when I wanted to do something. And that continued throughout my whole career. When I first played my first AFL game, people said it won't happen much more. Then we won a premiership. And the desire continued to grow right to the end. When I got my first All-Australian, I'll never forget the headline when they said Simon Who. And I felt at the time I was lucky to be in the All-Australian team as well, but I actually wanted to continue to prove people wrong, and that was the desire that I had throughout my whole career. I was never satisfied.
So what did you take from what you learned as a player that you use now as a coach?
There's lots that I learn as a player, and you reflect and you think, what have I learned along the journey? But your preparation and your work ethic and the behaviours that you set up throughout your career set up footy clubs. And that's really what I try and express to my players, is that what you create early in your career and what you generate and how you train and prepare and all the little things that go into it are the things that end up reflecting how you play. You also need to be surrounded by a hell of a lot of good people, and I was really fortunate that I was. And as a coach now, when I speak to my players, that's one thing at the Melbourne Football Club that we have. We've set up the club with some incredible people. They should feel really fortunate for what they have, and that's how you build a great footy club.
I reckon there's a few people you'd like to say thank you to.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Jared. Firstly, I'd like to thank the AFL for acknowledging myself and all the other inductees. What an honour to be standing here. The truth is that it's a privilege to play this unbelievable game. And tonight is an honour that celebrates individual performances basically achieved through the sacrifices and selflessness of our families. So I'd like to start by thanking my family, my mum and dad, for lugging me around the country to all those games. My 4 brothers for being the perfect kick-to-kick partners. My wife Maggie and children Lily, Bella and Eddie. The journey of football has taken us on and continues to, has been some incredible highs and some undeniable lows. Some quiet nights and some big ones. Still today, the most satisfaction I get in seeing the happiness and satisfaction on all your faces after a win, particularly the kids. And Eddie, when we lose, it isn't everyone else's fault, it's mine, mate. But thanks anyway. You have all helped shape my football dream, shape my values, and have sacrificed your lives to help me fulfil my love of the game. You have been unbelievably selfless, as have I, as most footballers have been unbelievably selfish. For that, I say thank you. To my junior coaches, Wayne Lamshed, Ken Applegarth, Shane Reardon and Ken Sheldon, thanks for teaching me the basic fundamentals required to play this game and helping me persevere with the game. Even when I was kickless after 12 seasons, 4'2", and puberty seemed like it would never come. To the Adelaide Football Club, I couldn't ask to be drafted to a more complete football club. 15 years of football and life development. I was fortunate to be educated and supported by many great people, but it was John Reid, Malcolm Blight, Neil Craig and Charlie Walsh that really shaped my career, my beliefs in the game, and who stood by me, worked with me and developed me as a person when the time was required. You were honest. At the time I thought a little too honest. Yet you were empathetic with the challenges young men face. It's the type of guidance any parent would want for their son to get, and advice I'll never forget. And now I pass that advice on to my players. I've been blessed to play with many great players and shared some great memories with many teammates, and that's what I love most about footy, the people. It's my teammates that made my journey so fulfilling and satisfying, and it's you that I've missed the most since retiring. I gave everything I could to the LA Footy Club, but it's given me much more. I'm also bloody proud of the culture being driven by Taylor Walker and Rory Sloane today. It remains a great football club. Lastly, I want to thank the game itself. I really love this game. I always have. I grew up dreaming about playing football. I slept with my ball. I would dream about playing AFL football. I love the game. I would kick a pair of rolled socks down the hallway pretending I was Mark Nailey and kicking the match winner. Eddie does that now, and I love that too. I love the game even though it took me 1.5 years to get my first kick in under eights. I didn't know I could leave my positional plate. Geez, I'm glad I worked that out. I love my time in the South Adelaide cheer squad. I love the highs of a victory, the despairs of a loss. I certainly like the highs more. I love the fact the game rallies around its families. Neil Danaher's plight with MND and the Big Freeze is the most recent, brilliant example. I love the smells of the game. 3 stand out. The smell of sweat and hard work that ferments together in the locker room. The smell of deep heat in the medical room. And my favourite smell of all, the smell of the Sharon. If Sharon were an aftershave, then I'd be wearing it now. The Sharon. Gil, I think I'm onto something. We'll catch up at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. I love the lifelong friendships the game develops. I love that kids, like I did, still watch their heroes and dream like I did. I feel so fortunate to still be involved in this great game and to have unfulfilled dreams. Hopefully, they come to light at Melbourne. How lucky I am. Thank you very much for tonight's significant honour. Thank you.